You believe in work-life balance, or
Well,
is it a myth?
Again, I think it's an absolute myth because...
Hello, Jelly.
Hi, Kev.
I want to talk to start with like the 29er show. And
Okay.
the 29er show we launched originally in 2016, the summer of 2016. Do you remember back to those days when we first launched it and what the purpose was?
I do, and I remember thinking, I don't want to do this.
Why did you not want to do it?
I didn't want to do it because I felt that at that point in time, there wasn't really behind the scenes in the media space, and agencies weren't doing that.
Yeah.
And for me, I just thought, no, I don't want to open up absolutely everything that happens for all our clients.
But if you
Very
think-
client focused, and I just didn't think that they'd want to see all the birthdays and they'd want to see what's going on in our lives. And I was a bit hesitant to do
but
that.
I think, as you said, we're a wee bit ahead of our time because not a lot of people was doing behind
Yeah.
the scenes. But I think it let our clients really show what we do and the passion we've got for it. And if you think about, we've captured all of that. I think we've got about 160 episodes of the 29er show.
Some of them are crackers.
Crackers, yeah. And,
Absolute crackers.
Yeah, but we've had 5 NASA astronauts present in our office. We've came through the pandemic and all the things in between, the travelling we did, all of that since 2016 to now. Obviously, we had the gap during the pandemic, so that's why we're now kind of relaunching the 29er show, as it says, unscripted, more conversation, bring on business leaders, bring on obviously our team as well, and talk about the journey we've been on. So did you all up for it then? 29er
I
show
am
unscripted?
completely up for it. After
Right.
we got through maybe 5 episodes and I seen how it was flowing, I didn't have a problem with it. And actually, I do reflect back and I'm really proud of what we achieved. I think that the show was just perfect.
Yeah.
And we've won some of our biggest customers because of that show.
Yeah. And that's one of the reasons our company became We the 29ers. People know us as the 29ers. Do you remember that story?
I do. And what really sticks in my mind is we were all at a shoot in the US and the CMO at the time, Ryan Hollenbeck.
Yeah.
And Ryan seen us all coming down the corridor and said, "Hey, there's my 29ers."
Yeah.
That sticks in my mind.
And then Nancy, what was Nancy's position at Verve?
Nancy was the VP for customer experience.
Yeah.
And Ryan and Nancy, we helped them really put video right into the heart of
But
the
Nancy, I remember
strategy.
Nancy taking the team at the side and saying, I watch the show every week and all that. So you never realise how much impact it's having. And I think it did really help sort of grow our business as well. But
Yeah.
obviously we're relaunching it now as 29er show unscripted.
Well, I was totally up for that. And when
Yeah.
you told me you wanted to do this, I had the exact same reaction as I did in
Right.
2016.
Why is that?
I don't know. Maybe
Right.
it's just that whole change thing.
Right.
I'm really into change, but sometimes when you have to just embrace it, you're much better at just taking it and running with it.
Yeah.
And then I warm up to it. So I'm really excited to warm up to it. So let's get into it.
We will. So let me take you back and ask you a few questions. Now, obviously, we're husband and wife. I know a lot about you.
We do.
But I want to kind of like ask you some questions, obviously, more on the kind of personal journey for you.
Okay.
What was your childhood like? And did you always have a sense you knew what you wanted to do?
Then, when I was a kid, the first thing that I wanted to do was to become an astronaut. And I genuinely really did believe I was going to be an astronaut. When I became a teenager, went and done the Navy, joined the Navy as the Navy Reserves, joined the stockbrokers, went and learned all about finance and communications. And I knew that one day I would start my own company. And that's when we met.
What was your mum and dad's role in the business? Because obviously that's, I think, important to understand like where you are now. We're both 56, and it's always good to look back and think, where did you get your influence from? So
Yeah.
your mum and dad obviously different roles in the business, and I think you've got that blend naturally. But maybe
I
talk about that.
do. When I look back now, it was a family business, but my mum and dad's role, my dad was very commercially focused. He was the wheeler and dealer. He could pull in deals left, right, and centre. My mum was strategy. She looked after finance, strategy, structure. So I've got a complete blend of both of them. And I think that even now, when I look back, I remember my mum when I was maybe about 8 or 9, and she would be up at 2 a.m. with a big calculator back in the 70s, all the ticker tape coming off it, calculating, doing payroll, doing all the types of financial stuff you do in a business. And I always remember thinking, oh, I want to do that one day. So,
Do you think, looking back, did you see your mum and dad's the highs and lows of maybe running a business? Do you remember anything significant back in those days? Like
think I've
the
probably-
pressure, maybe, obviously husband and wife again running a business.
yeah, I think I probably got misguided view, because I've always been in a family business. I grew up a kid in a family business. So I don't know what it's like to not be in a family business. So I've not got the luxury of knowing what's a 9-to-5 job. I've never had that, never experienced that. When I did work for other companies, I was always looking at, when I left school and joined the stockbrokers, but it was a family business. So I've always had family business at the heart of everything I've done.
I suppose always back then, it wasn't even, the word entrepreneur wasn't that common. It was just you're starting a business, wasn't it? So obviously it's more common that you start and be an entrepreneur now, and everyone wants to be an entrepreneur, but it must have been tough, I think, for your mum and dad back then.
Yeah, I think so. It was the 70s. You know, back in the 70s, business was, you were a business owner and you weren't really an entrepreneur. Yeah. And my mum did also have 3 kids. It was difficult. It was challenging. You know, we had a young sister who died. My mum had to go through all of that pain. That was really difficult now when I think about when I was a kid growing up, what my parents had to go through when we were growing up.
And where was this business based?
It was based in Cumbernauld.
Yeah. Where we both met, obviously.
Where we both met. And what about you? Tell me about you. What was your childhood?
Quite the opposite, actually. My mum and dad worked hard for their living. My dad is a joiner. My mum worked in a manufacturing company called Avery Labels, again in Cumbernauld. And my dad, obviously, in a creative way, was building things. My mum, as I say, just worked hard. And my passion was always graphic design and football. So I never grew up in that entrepreneurial environment, but I had a passion for creativity and hard work. And I think then that blend, obviously, when meeting you, we kind of created that dynamic, obviously, over the years.
But then when you grew up, your parents were real hard workers.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that mine weren't.
Still are.
But your parents they worked for companies.
Yeah.
So you hadn't been exposed to ever starting a business. Because I remember when we first met and I said, one day, we're going to run a business. Yeah. And you weren't really that into it at that point. I kind of got you into it.
No, I think when I was younger, obviously we met when we were 18 and football was my life. Played professional football for a while. So football was my number one passion, but at the back of that it was graphic design, obviously. So as you say, I never grew up in that environment, but working hard, being creative was just my kind of DNA with my parents. And I think that's where that dynamic between both of us really works, because obviously you from the entrepreneurial background and me from the creative side really did work. And it leads me on to my next question. What's the best and worst part of building something as a husband and wife? What do you think is the best and worst part?
I think that there's more bests than worsts. Right. And I think that the best part of it is...
Maybe Caitlin would disagree with it.
The best part, I think, is that we get to do this together, and our whole life is blended, whether we are, whether we're on holiday, whether we're at the office, whether we're making dinner. We're always on, and that can be a positive. Sometimes it can be a negative, but we get to do this together. And when I see my friends and family members and others that don't have their partner working with them, you do have to have that separation, because at the end of the day, if you've not got your partner in your business and you go home at night, your partner doesn't really care about what goes on 24/7 in your business life. But we do. We really care about what's going on in our business 24/7, because we're building something together. And that's a real advantage.
And we've been doing it since 1998. Yeah. Do you remember those first early days?
Yeah, I remember we had a board and it said £400, and that's what we needed.
Was it the week or the month?
£400 a week, that was the target.
£400 a week was the target, and it felt like unachievable, didn't it? And we worked like every entrepreneur story, worked from our back bedroom in Cumbernauld. And do you remember our first client, our first big client?
Our first big client was Optical Express.
Yeah, and how did that feel?
That was absolutely amazing. At the time, I probably didn't realise that the impact and the trajectory that would have taken us on in those early days. And when we got that call out of the blue from, we were living in a place called Lilac Court, and their head office was in Mullins Court in Cumbernauld. We were in a housing estate, they were in a business estate, and the marketing director at the time, their agency had let them down, found us in Yellow Pages, called us and they said they were coming to see us. We said we're on our way out, went to see them, they gave us the job, and then within that first couple of years, David Molesdale at the time was just incredible. He was probably one of the most ruthless businessmen I've ever met. But I had so much respect for him. He just knew what he wanted. He was so focused. And he actually took us under his wing. And I probably have never thanked him for that.
And
but he did.
He then became our first investor, wasn't he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah. And he gave us the opportunity to have our first premises, our first big client. And it let us really cut our teeth in the entrepreneurial space. He took us into the entrepreneurial exchange. He got us involved with all the other entrepreneurs at the time. Richard Emmanuel, who was an incredible entrepreneur. Michelle Moan at the time, she helped us. We built lots of content for her. We gave up Easter one year to help her get the World Young Business Achievers Award. And at that point in time, that was right at the very early days. That was what, 2000?
2000, I think, early 2000s.
1998, 99, 2000, the early days.
But it was a big journey, and a big journey we had ahead of ourselves. Do you remember a moment when you were on the sort of verge or edge of failure? And how did we get through it? You got any memories of what failure was like back in those early days?
Wow. That's a really tough one. I wish you'd prompted me on this one.
No, it's unscripted.
I know. I think any entrepreneur that says that they've never had failure is a lie. I think everybody has to go through failure because it's only by going through those failure points. I think for me, when I reflect back, I was so trusting with a customer who didn't pay us. And they went month to month to month, and over maybe 4 or 5 months, didn't pay us. We just kept letting it build up, build up. At the time, David told me, David at Optical said, you need to call in on that and you need to close that down. Yeah. And I didn't. I didn't take the advice.
We were misguided, or we misguided ourselves because we were going out for dinner and lunch, became friends, we bought birthday presents, we thought he was a friend.
Yeah, and he basically shafted us, and it was a significant amount of money that more or less was the start of the demise of our first business. Yeah,
and that was really tough, wasn't it? It was a really tough feeling because it was like 5 years, that first business, that we really felt it, and we thought we were growing something special.
But the biggest outcome from that was learning the lesson of credit control, and credit control is absolutely critical. Yeah. And now when you look at the client groups we work with, they're all billion-dollar multinational companies that work with purchase order systems and scopes of work, so we never leave ourselves exposed. We never leave ourselves exposed.
Any other lessons from the past, you would think?
I think also when something happens that you think, I don't know how I'm going to tackle this, you have to just stop and take a full holistic view. As an entrepreneur, you go either left, right, up, down, or right through it, but you just don't stop. You find the solution. I
think we talked about this previously, that you just have to keep moving forward. Yep. And I think that's what we try and do all the time, is take action, take fast action, move forward all the time.
Because just failure is not an option.
Yeah. What was it someone said? You only fail if you quit.
Yeah. If you got to just keep bouncing back up.
And I think that's what we never do. We never quit. We keep going on. We keep going on to the next adventure. So you could sit down with Gillian from 1998. What advice would you give her?
Trust your gut instinct. If any time in the early days when I had a decision or a dilemma and I didn't trust my gut instinct, it always went pear-shaped. Gut instinct now for me is one of my strongest barometers. When it doesn't feel right, it means it's not right.
Mm-hmm. And would you still go through the journey we went through?
100%. 100%. I wouldn't change anything because what I've learned through that journey is what I am now, it's where we are now. But being able to trust that gut instinct in the early stages of your business, your gut is there, it's a measurement, and you often forget it and you think it'll be okay when you think, trust your gut instinct. And that's the advice I would give to anyone starting out in business.
Okay.
What about you?
I think I just touched on it. I think you do care what people think, and I think that is the biggest barrier. And I think it's easier as you get older to care less, because you also measure time. You think when you're younger, you've got all this time ahead of you. As I said, we're both 56, so we are kind of looking at what time have we got ahead and what can we do. So to do that faster and better, you need to, I think, care less what people think. Not in an arrogant way, not in a bad way, but just focus on what you're trying to do and always have a sense of purpose. I think that's what I try and think about a business every week, every month, is have a sense of purpose and a sense of achievement. And I think we don't do that enough. We don't sit down with the team, with Lynn and Caitlin and Stacey and things, and go, what have we achieved? And look what we've achieved. We just keep moving on. So sometimes it's good to reflect and think what you've achieved, to give yourself that sense of, well, what's the next goal? What's the next purpose? So I think,
and then also your business has to constantly reinvent itself. Yeah. And I think that's where we're at that point right now. We're at that junction point. If you think back to the early days when you first start your first business, you have got zero clue what you're doing. You really don't. And the first business and the first failure in that business is really the learning curve.
But do you think you, at any point, have a clue what you're doing?
Yes, you do? I actually do. I actually feel that's a really good question.
I'm not meaning that. I mean, like, do you always have that sense of purpose, or are you kind of just like, you have to, especially with the speed of change, with everything that the industry we work in, the creative industries, it's very difficult to, I think, forecast now. The way you could do when we first started business, you could maybe look 5-10 years ahead. I think that's very difficult now, especially in the creative industries, of where will it be in 5 or 10 years? And it might be one of the questions we'll deep dive into later.
And you would need a crystal ball to know that. But what I mean by, right now, I feel as if I know what I'm doing. When I first started in business, I had no idea what I was doing. I was in charge of sales. And when we first started our business on that first day, first week, first month, I had to sit with the yellow pages thinking, oh my God, what am I going to do? How am I going to find a customer?
Do you remember when you were first going out for your first kind of big presentation and we were practicing at night?
Oh my God, it was
and you're behind the
horrendous.
sofa and you had to stand up and present and introduce yourself.
I was 29 years old and I had no idea what I was doing. But very, very quickly I got on board with that and I actually became really good at it. Went and did the high impact business presentation training. That was the best training that I have ever done. It was Dale Carnegie and it was incredible. It just gave me so much more confidence to be able to stand in front of a room, be able to pitch, be able to, present yourself on camera.
But people use the phrase like step outside your comfort zone. I think that's what, I'm kind of going to contradict myself slightly because you also said earlier that you don't like change in certain things, but then I think you always are. And as a business owner, entrepreneur, you're always changing, you're always stepping outside your comfort zone. So even obviously your journey that you've just started to talk about, it was constant change even back then, trying to learn, trying to grow. So you were always stepping outside your comfort zone.
And maybe when I talk about change, I've maybe misrepresented what I mean.
It's when I want it to change.
No, I don't mean when you want it to change. I do embrace change, but I probably am the one that's more of a risk analyst, and I look at it from a perspective of what's the consequences.
Your financial background with
Possibly.
your mum and
it's
working
like,
in
what's
the stock
the
exchange.
consequences? Yeah. Whereas I think you're more of a risk taker than me.
That's interesting. I don't know. I kind of probably always think you're more the risk taker, but looking back now, I think with your background, maybe you're right. Maybe because I think your mum, I think you're heavily. I'm trying to think of who you're more like,
your
mum and your
strategic.
dad. Who do you think you're more like, your mum
I'm
or your
actually
dad?
very blended. I actually spoke to Mum about this at the weekend. I always thought it was more like my dad. I'm actually more like my mum, but I've got my dad's skills for business development.
Yeah.
And I've got my mum's strategy.
Who do you think I'm more like?
Wow. Now that's a difficult one.
Why?
I think you've got the charm of your dad, but you've got the tenacity of your mum.
Right. Okay.
I think you always want to. The charm of your dad is a great party man. Your dad's always in the middle of things, always got stories to tell, and he's people's pappy. Everyone calls him people's pappy. Whereas your mum, she's the one that holds the family together. Yeah. And I think that you've got a really good combination of both.
Right. Okay. That's good. That's good to know. What's one business philosophy that you live by?
Right, I'm going to throw that back at you. You tell me yours first.
I kind of touched on it earlier. I just think never give up. I hate giving up on something. Once I start something, I become my own worst enemy, as in I need to finish it. And also when anything presents itself as an opportunity, I need to go after it. So I think just like never giving up. And we talked about it, like you never fail unless you quit. So I think everything I start, I want to finish. Doesn't always work out that way because you're in business. And then that competitiveness, I think because I grew up in sports and football, I grew up with absolute competitiveness in sport. Any kind of sport, I can watch any kind of sport. Obviously football is my main thing, but I think that's drawn me into business as far as I want to compete. I want to be the best. So anything I do, I want to be the best at. And I think that's kind of helped me over the years in business. So I think competing, putting myself in a position that I am competitive and I know who we're up against. I think that's really important for me. And that's been a challenge over the last few years. You're obviously trying to measure yourself. But then again, we don't look at other design agencies or creative agencies. We measure ourselves against how we present ourselves to our customers. I think
we've never got into that peer market.
Yeah, and we've never had like the trophy cabinet awards.
Our trophies is our customers.
Our trophies is our customers. You just stole my line. Our trophies are our customers, and I think we learned a lot. And back to you touched earlier on Nancy and Ryan from Verint. And I think I actually seen a big change in you and your philosophy in business after we met them in America and Verint, the guy that kind of coined the 29ers, and how Nancy approached customer service. So I think that's the philosophy I live by, is the competitiveness, but compete to make your clients the best you can make them with the creative work we do. So So what's your take on that?
Well, I'll use that exact example.
Yeah.
With Nancy Port, Nancy was an incredible business leader. And when I was given the opportunity to work with Verint, when we got involved and I got introduced to Nancy, and Nancy invited me to one of her kind of like the annual summit of get-togethers to plan out what the strategy was for the rest of the year. Yeah. And Nancy, the way that she worked every single decision making around, will this improve the experience for the customer? And this is back in 2014, 2015 when we started to work with Verint. Yeah. And I watched and I learned and I opened my eyes and I opened my ears and I really went deep on customer centricity. And we have adopted that right into the heart of our business. When a customer comes to us and they need something, we'll challenge them, we'll question them. Sometimes my challenging is a wee bit forthright, but I always think about where can we add value to that customer.
And I think and
it was Nancy's strategy. And even now I see it. Nancy's no longer with that company. Nancy's team, Rob and Lauren, who we currently work with, it just oozes out of them, the philosophy of, customer centricity.
But I think like as much as we helped shape them being their video partners over the last, this is their 10th year now with Verint, I think, as you say, the influence that they had on us is just kind of grown over the years and how we look after our clients. And I think that's part of everything we do. We talked about awards or trophies. It is just giving that full experience to our customers. Mm-hmm. So we do great work, but it's just that wraparound service that we give. And I think,
and it's not just the work we do; it's the way we do it.
Yeah.
It's the way we do it and the value that we add. And even when you think of at that point in time when we joined the company with Verint, it was Claire Dorian at the time, and Claire was so definitive in the scope, the brief, the need. The information, the nits that she had,
nits was Claire's
word. And I'll never forget that because she would bring back the brief. She would give us the brief. Yeah. We would create first drafts. Yeah. Then she'd come back and go, absolutely love this, guys. It's amazing. And then we'd have 100 nits. Yeah. And the nits were perfect. We made it perfect. And the skills that we learned from Claire back then, even now I see Caitlin, because Caitlin worked in that project and very much worked behind what Claire needed. And I see Claire oozing out of Caitlin. Caitlin's adopted that methodology as a CMO in a company. Yeah. And Claire manages billion-dollar businesses.
But let's just take it back slightly. Obviously, we're talking about Verint, one of our customers, and it is 10 years now that we've been working with them. We'll go back out again to Orlando this September and work again on their conference. But how did that come about? And I think more aligned to opportunity in business. If you think about the journey, although it's been 10 years, how did we win that client? But the story you're about to tell obviously will, I think, resonate with how you go and try and win other clients.
Yeah, in business for me, business doesn't just happen. It doesn't land on a plate. You have to go find it. You have to look for it. You have to find the opportunities. Opportunities happen every single day. You just sometimes have got your eyes closed to it or you don't really perceive it as an opportunity.
Sometimes it's difficult to understand where that might lead as well. Yeah.
And even yesterday I was talking to Andy Campbell. He was talking about how sometimes you have to nudge. He called it the nudge. And sometimes if you think of a career, and this is a great story, and I would love to get Andy to tell us all about this on camera, but his son now is in a rocket science world down in New Zealand working with a rocket lab company. And he came to the Mission Discovery programme when we had the astronauts in Glasgow. He brought Lewis along. Lewis was only 15 at the time. And his career has went on a trajectory. I originally thought he was going to go down into the Air Force, and now he's working in the space industry. And that was because he took the opportunity to come to the Pirate Bar, come and hang out with the 29ers, come and meet the astronauts, and that inspired him. That was amazing. We've got a young boy from Scotland.
But if you think we've obviously met Andy yesterday, we've got that on film now, that first event that we had. I think it connects to the question there about opportunity. We're talking about Verint. You've touched on the NASA thing.
The other one was when YouTube came over.
Yeah. But they all have a connection, a thread running through them about how we generated that opportunity. So in a general sense, it was opportunity that presented themselves in Glasgow for Verint. If we go back to Verint and how that happened.
Yeah, well, we got an opportunity. We got invited. We actually won an award out in the US. We went out to the US while we were there. We thought, let's go and talk to collaborate
This
with
is YouTube.
and just open up opportunities. So we connected with another video company, a direct competitor, and we went to the creamery, we sat and had a blether and we were chatting away, and they said, have you guys ever done any business with YouTube? And we said, no.
Yeah. But this was back when YouTube was just kind of starting out.
They were just
so
starting.
I actually said, have you heard of a company called YouTube?
And they said, I'll phone them and see if they want to come up. And they phoned them and they said, oh, we can't come up to San Francisco. They were down in Mountain View. They said, come down. So we got invited down to YouTube, met up with JJ at the time. JJ was incredible. We were video partners with YouTube at the time, and we're sitting
What
having
year
lunch.
was this then? If you think
This
back?
is 2011, 2010, 2011.
Yeah.
And I remember saying to JJ in the canteen at Googleplex, and I said to him, have you ever been to Glasgow? And he said, no. And I said, well, why don't you come over? And he went, okay.
Yeah.
And then 4 weeks after we came home, he messaged and went, I'm coming to Glasgow. And I
But
thought,
what was the
great.
first thing he wanted to eat when he got to Glasgow?
Deep fried Mars bar and go on the tour bus and visit the cathedral.
Yeah.
So I made sure we did all of that.
Yeah.
But when he came over, we threw a party at the Corinthian. We brought a whole pile of business people in Glasgow to talk about, Moviecom at the time. That was one of our businesses, one of our first tech businesses that I absolutely loved. And we were video partners with YouTube at the time. But in the audience was Claire Dorian.
Yeah.
And Claire, who then hired us after that to help her with some bumpers and some creative for Verint in Glasgow. And then she went to work in America, and she remembered us and took us with her.
So that original kind of conversation in the creamery in San Francisco led to meeting YouTube, led to having an event, led to Claire coming to it, led to a 10-year relationship with Verint.
And right
you
off the
can't
back of
predict.
that.
I suppose you can't predict all of that, but it is about putting yourself in those situations, taking those chances, spending the money, because we spent a lot of money to go to San Francisco and things, but you just never know where that journey will continue. Or how it will continue.
And even then, JJ invited us to come to the Google I.O. and we got to go in and show off our technology stack with them, and we met with Yarrick and we took Daniel with us, and that was incredible. Again, a great opportunity. But opportunities happen. It's how you embrace them, how you commercialise them, and how you turn them into a meaningful business experience. And then opportunities sometimes go pear-shaped.
Yeah, and one of your passions, you said at the very start, was you wanted to be an astronaut. And you came close because you've met quite a few astronauts, again, when opportunity knocks, and how that came about, obviously, the whole astronaut journey, if you want to kind of elaborate on that.
I got the invitation. Remember, my sister was planning to go on an adventure, and she called me and said, do you fancy going to the Mojave Desert? And I thought, yeah, why not? Never been. Said, what's the route? And she told me the route. We're going via Frankfurt into Beijing. Thinking, that's not the Mojave Desert. Says, are you sure? And she said, yeah. But when we really looked into it, it was the Gobi Desert in Mongolia, and it was the transit of Venus. It was 2012. It was a NASA astronaut leadership program with Mission Discovery. Michelle Ham and Ken Ham, now Michelle Lucas, who was mission control for NASA. And Ken went to the International Space Station twice on Atlantis and Discovery. We went on a leadership program. We went through the Gobi Desert. We went trekking. We went to Beijing. We had an amazing time, and I forged a great relationship.
But you've done what you did with JJ. You invited Ken and Michelle back,
the
astronauts back to Glasgow, never thinking they would ever come, and they did.
And then Michelle and Chris, who was the founder of Mission Discovery, they then put together the ISET, International Space School Education Trust, and they put a program together which was for young kids to build an experiment, work in a team with leadership from an astronaut, and then the winning experiment was sent up to the space station. And that's where Andy's son went.
So we've got that, but that also connects back to when we then started the show.
Yep.
And it was one of the first episodes was one of the NASA, or Ken and Michelle, being in our office.
Yep.
So you think of the journey we've been on, and going back to the point of the opportunity, and how you need to just pursue opportunity and never give up. Because if you keep pursuing that opportunity, some people, I think, going back to the quit thing, don't see the opportunities, or maybe see one early, but don't let it kind of manifest.
Yep.
And I think we've always just had that vision of like, there's a potential opportunity, let's see where it takes us.
Yep.
And if you never give up, you might think that opportunities went south, but it's not. It just then goes in a different direction.
Yep.
So you would never have thought all those things are actually connected, all those stories you've just told is connected in some way, and it has threads in some way. So I think it's just that case of opportunities do present themselves every day or every week, but just keep following them and just keep following them. And if they divert off and go in different directions, keep going and just never give up, because all of those stories has led to us creating our business, generating amazing clients, as we talked about.
But even when you think of back then, when we started, we were very much a production company, video production. Right from that point, that was another inception point where we then became more focused on analytics, and it became video analytics. And we then completely changed the business to be around make intelligent video with the intelligence behind the video. That word intelligent has stayed in our entire business career. With that intelligence behind the video content, how is it being consumed? The analytics behind it. We partnered then with Wistia, another Boston company, and we still partner with Wistia. We still have Wistia at the heartbeat of all our video analytics, albeit we still do have YouTube and all other different types of platforms. But when you think of the word intelligence, even now, Apple Intelligence, artificial intelligence.
Apple Intelligence is not probably the best example right now.
Well, yeah, it's still there and we still use it. But with artificial intelligence, and I'm sure we'll go on to that because that's the next, it's not the next, it is the biggest transition that's ever going to change our lives.
Well, talking about projects, campaigns, what would you look back and think was your favourite campaign or project?
It's really difficult. That's like trying to ask a mum who's your favourite child. You just
well,
can't
we don't
do
have that problem because we've only got one.
I know. I've only got one child, and I've got a favourite, which is Caitlin. But I've got so many projects and so many clients that they're all so different. I can't.
Have to pick
one favourite.
Yeah, one that comes straight to mind. There must be one that comes straight to mind.
All these ones are coming to mind.
Give me highlights then.
Highlights of them all.
Well, not all of them, but...
Well, when I think of working with Shivas, the work that we do with Shivas is brilliant. And at the time we worked with John and James inside Shivas, and those guys were brilliant. They just took a chance on us. Yeah. We were this small, young, creative agency, and they let us go deep. We're now 10 years deep inside Shivas with their training content, internal comms content. And that was down to relationships. And I'll never forget them taking a chance on us. Then when you go across all the different client groups, I've talked about Verint. Absolutely love Verint. I love the way that they just treat us like partners. They really do. And when I watch how I stand in front of their customers, they allow me to go deep with their customers. And that is a privilege to be able to, even during the pandemic, they allowed us to go on Zoom calls and Teams calls with the biggest brands in the world to carve out customer stories. That's trust, that's confidence. And I honestly, see, as I'm saying,
right, so it's maybe not campaigns, it's maybe just the lessons you've learned over the years from the customers we've worked with. I think that's what the story you're telling right now is all the lessons you've learned and things you learn from our customers. As much as we provide a service, you're always learning from customers as well.
Yeah, and I think I always take complex and make it simple, and that's been one of my secret powers. If you have a secret power, when I see something that's really complex, I digest it and I make it really simple. When we started working with CCL, that was Bill Riddy, and forever I will be grateful to Bill Riddy.
But that goes back to Cumbernauld, good old Cumbernauld.
He goes right back to when you first started your career, and then I came to work with you, and I got to know Bill. When we started our business, we went off and done our thing. He went off to America. He went through some transitions and then ended up at CCL as the VP of supply chain. But he's seen our campaign on LinkedIn, Make Intelligent Video, and I'll not use his words, but he was like, what is this? And he came over, seen what we were doing. This is 2017. And right from that point, Bill took us right into the heartbeat of communications within the CCL world. Yeah. And we're working across some of the biggest brands in the world. We're building content that goes in front of the biggest brands in the world. Yeah. And again, I can't pick that over the other projects, but I have so much passion and pride. And when I look at what we produce as a company for some of the most incredible technologies,
and I think CCL, obviously the journey of them was when I first worked in Cumbernauld, my first job, and going back to my mum working hard. She actually worked as the cleaner in Avery in Cumbernauld. She then got a job within that company, but she originally got me an interview as a graphic designer in Avery Dennison. And Bill was there at the time, and I worked myself up to be the creative director there, stayed 12 years, and then obviously we started our own business after that. But the lessons I learned then, being in that manufacturing type of thing and the sort of corporate world, I think that's kind of influenced me now in my career over the years as well. So, okay, last question in this section.
Wow.
If you lost everything tomorrow, what would be the first thing you would do?
I'd start another business.
Yeah.
I just can't ever imagine not being at the front of a business. It's just what I do.
Yeah.
It's my DNA to be able to know I can create my own destiny. If I want to have money, I have to go earn it. If I want to have money, I have to go find it. I have to find the client. I have to find the project. I have to find the money. I have to deliver on that promise. And the more of that you do, the more money you make.
Okay, we're going to move on a little bit more at speed now. How do you reset when you feel stuck or uninspired? How do you reset?
When you want to reset, you have to change your environment. Because if you stay in the same, and that might literally just be close your laptop, go for a walk, go for a glass of wine somewhere, just change your environment. And it often does, not often, every single time it changes your mindset.
But I think that's difficult when you're in that mindset. It's very difficult to think, get myself out of this environment. And it might not be that you're in the wrong environment, you just need to change environment.
Yeah, but you see that, and that's the benefit of us working together. Yeah. When I'm in that stress zone, you'll then say, right, come on, we're going for a walk. Yeah. And you see that. And I do get stressed a lot.
Who do you think stresses out more, me or you?
Probably me.
Yeah.
I would say me.
Do you hide it better?
Nope.
No?
Okay. How do you? Who do you think?
I think we have different, obviously like everything, we have different levels of what's stressful and what's not, I think, in business. I think, again, that's a product of your environment growing up and how you were brought up. But you were brought up with, in a way, a more stressful environment by being have an entrepreneurial family. Mine's worked for companies, but then that's stressful because you can get paid off. My dad got paid off a couple of times, but he fought back and he worked hard. And so there's a resilience there in a stressful way, as opposed to maybe your mum and dad from an entrepreneurial point of view. So I think, we deal with stress differently. And luckily, because we are husband and wife, we don't normally get stressed about the same things at the same time. So the other one can balance the other one back, or say, as you said, like, let's change your environment. And I think we do that often because it is stressful. Building a business is stressful, especially over the last few years with pandemic and obviously AI coming into play. You're always trying to think. So from my stress, it's probably about what's happening next, as opposed to just like a day-to-day stress.
See, that doesn't stress me.
I think about more what's next, stressful wise, than what I'm dealing with now.
Yeah, whereas that what's coming down the line, I firmly believe it's going to happen anyway, so there's no point in worrying about it. And my sister said that to me, don't worry about something that's not happened. You can only worry about it when it's happened.
But the fact you said that to you, that means that that's the things you worry about.
No, I don't know. This was talking about Michelle when she was growing up.
How do you switch off from work? How do you think we switch? What's our thing? If we do, because obviously we travel together, we do business travel together, so is it difficult to switch off? What's your kind of way of switching off? Up until the pandemic, I really struggled to switch off, and I've had a couple of pivot points in my life. And one pivot point was when I had the car accident, and the car accident actually stopped me in my tracks when I was hit by a truck on the motorway. My car.
Your car.
Yeah.
And it hit me, and it didn't just hit me physically, it hit me mentally. Yeah. And it hit me to actually stop, because I could have been wiped off the planet that day. But what it made me then reflect is, I was spiralling. I was running at 100 miles an hour.
But I still see you doing that.
I know, I still do that. Yeah, but I learn how to do it differently. I do. I know you don't see that, but I actually do. That was one big, massive pivot point for me. What was the question?
Just how do you switch off? But I think, let me help also put my perspective on it. I don't think in our environment working together, we've talked about this with Lynn and Caitlin, about how we have the advantage of working together, so we can knock things around conversation wise, what's good, what's bad, but then it also is 24/7.
Yeah.
We don't go home and find out what our other half's doing. So it has its pros and cons.
Yeah, so to switch off at weekends, I do wherever we can. Caitlin and I will go out. It's
probably the only time we split up then, isn't it?
Yeah, you do your football and I go and do stuff with my daughter, go and hang out with Caitlin. We'll go and get our nails done, we'll go and get our beauty stuff, we'll go shopping. And we try really hard not to talk about work.
Yeah.
And that's difficult because when I'm with you, we talk about work. When I'm with Caitlin during the day, we talk about work. But after hours, we do switch off.
Yeah, but I think it's always there, because also we do work with customers in America, and you're more American, you're obviously always aware of what's going on from a business point of view. So I think it's difficult. I think it's difficult when you run your own business, and the world we live in is 24/7. So I think you need to find those moments. When we do our travel with business, we always try and get a day here or there just to try and take some time out. So I think it's proven more difficult with the culture and the type of work that we do. So.
But then let me just throw back switch off, what does that actually mean? Switch off from what? Because if you're really loving something and you're really enjoying it, and I have a problem with this sometimes with you, right? I'm putting it on camera.
Right.
I'll maybe be working on something and it's 6:30 at night and you've maybe unplugged for the day and you're like, I'm off. Yeah. I'm deep in something and I really want to keep going. Yeah, and I could keep going till 8, 9, 10 o'clock.
But you'll always be deep on something. You always give yourself, I think, far too many tasks to do. So you always get to the end of the day and go, and you always talk about what you never achieved. And I think that's where I see what we talked about more, the future. I look at, well, what did you achieve today? So you never stop and believe in yourself. You're always thinking about what you never done. So it's not 6:30. It could be 10:30. It could be, and I'm always trying to get you to switch off because you just talked about your accident. You were running at 100 miles an hour.
Spiraled.
So it's part of my job as obviously husband and obviously in business is to try and find that space. So I think it's an important question, I think, to anyone else who husband and wife or partners,
runs a business, that
you do need to find time. And I think we talked about as we get older, I think time becomes more and more precious as you get older because there's no guarantee. I think as you're younger, you're a bit more carefree in your time, but I probably, in a different way, I think value time more than you do right now because I think you just think you've never got enough time, and you always have enough time if you prioritise what you want. And I think you just give yourself sometimes far too many tasks over the course of the day, and then you look negatively to what you've not achieved.
Yeah. So, and I never judge my time correctly because I'm always late.
So it leads into probably the kind of question I've heard a lot, especially over the last few years, is do you believe in work-life balance or is it a myth?
Again, I think it's an absolute myth because I think if you really love what you do, there isn't a difference. For me, there's no difference.
But I suppose that's okay for us because we run our own business, so it's like we live and breathe this. But for people who work for companies and they see that as a stop point.
And that's it.
It's probably because my mum and dad grew up in that environment. They stopped, they went away the weekend, they created weekends, they created evenings.
But they didn't have the responsibility or the responsibility to think about switching off. I'll start again. If you switch off from your business, you can't because
no, I'm going to interrupt because I think probably the answer to the question is if you're entrepreneurial, I don't see work-life balance as shouldn't be a thing because if you run your own business, I don't think it should be a thing. No. I can accept it if you work for another company and that company just sees you as an employee, then there will be work. I totally appreciate work-life balance. So I think the question is more, do you believe in work-life balance as an entrepreneur? As an entrepreneur, I think we don't. I think if you're an entrepreneur and you've started your own business and you still think there should be a work-life balance, you've started the wrong business.
Yeah, because I don't feel that my life has to be the balance of this is life and this is work. It's just everything. And probably the best example for me was when the pandemic hit and we went to Spain and we rented a house and we stayed there and we had an incredible time. All my family thought I was just off for 2 years. Yeah. But I was working so hard. I went really deep in learning.
It was Mallorca.
Yeah, it was Mallorca and it was a beautiful house and we were on an amazing island. Yeah. But I would honestly wake up every day and I would work all day thinking,
where you've done your
working.
Whole blockchain thing.
I went to Oxford University online, did blockchain strategy. I learned all about metaverse. I looked at AI. I looked at what was coming down the line. Yeah. And I crammed everything. And albeit with a glass of wine on the sun lounger, under the trees in the garden. Is that work-life balance?
Yeah, well, I think I probably answer one question. I think it is very niche to, I don't think it should exist if you run your own business. I think work-life balance, it should just be, it's your life. Yeah. Because you've started something that you should passionately believe in. So I think I'm kind of answering one question then. What's your biggest personal challenge right now?
Oh.
This is personal, remember, so don't dive
biggest
into work.
Personal challenge, and I actually beat myself up about this consistently. And every woman who's my age, who's carrying a few extra pounds or a few more than a few extra pounds, and that has been the only one thing in my entire life that I have never been able to crack. And I really don't know why. I really don't, because I am a high achiever. I succeed at everything I put my mind to. I have achieved so much professionally, but I cannot get this body in shape.
So you take after your mum and dad from the entrepreneur side of it, but when you go to your mum and dad's and have that salad that you talk about, So you're saying obviously the biggest personal challenge, just
My weight.
and I think I'm in the same position. I think as we get older, again, that time thing is very crucial as you get older. And I always played football, so I never had to think about weight or how I looked. I played football all the time, loved it. But as I got older,
benefit of being, when you were younger, you had the benefit of being really sporty.
Yeah.
You had a great sport career growing up, and you always, and I remember meeting you, and you would be drinking lots of milk, and you would be able to eat anything. Whereas I have never been able to. I've always, since day one, even when I was born, I was a chubby baby.
Yeah. And that's probably because after dinner, you always have
dessert.
cake. You always have cake. Probably the same here. Biggest challenge is just trying to lose some weight now. A year ago, I went to do a personal trainer and get up at 7 a.m, try and change my algorithm. I'm not a morning person. As an entrepreneur, I think a lot of entrepreneurs obviously work from morning right through to night. You generally stay up late at night. So I've just had to try and change over the last year, or year and a half, my own personal algorithm of getting up and going to the personal trainer. Football I loved. I would hail, rain and snow, go and play football. Going to the gyms, I hate every minute of it. But I see the benefit, or I'm seeing the benefit. Still got a long way to go, but I need to we're trying to create that as a routine now from going to the gym, and it's more weight. So I think personal challenge, I think it's just always trying to stay, especially in the world that we live in from a business point of view, is trying to stay as healthy as we possibly can.
And that's why I need to get that under control.
I think that's the key.
I want to ask a question on this one, because this one's quite interesting.
You're pointing at me.
Sorry, don't point. If it was a priority for me, right, and I'm kind of struggled with this one, and I'm still struggling with this one. If it was a real priority for me to get in shape, I would have achieved that.
You would have done it.
So it's clearly not a priority.
Yeah, but I think it's sometimes you have to. Again, I'm going back to age. I think if we were in our 20s, you've got time. We've been through over the last...
Yeah, but even now I'm 56.
Yeah.
So if it was really a big priority,
but
I would have achieved it when I was 20.
This is when the husband-wife thing comes in. I think we need to try, both of us. I'm not, I've got a lot to lose as well. So I think we need to make it a priority. I think that's what I'm trying to educate myself. It's like, if I didn't book it, if I just said I was going to go to the gym, I would have quit, because it wouldn't be the priority. But because I'm doing a personal trainer, you're paying for it, so you're accountable to someone. So I think that's again in business, and we're accountable to our customers. And I think we go all in on those customers. We do everything we can, and I'm trying to bring that into our personal life. Is that we need to put something in there that gives us accountability to someone that we're either paying, personal trainer, to get ourselves healthy and fit, because it's the number one asset we have over the next few years is our health.
Yeah, and the old saying, your body is your temple. Absolutely get that. But when I go back to then how success, and this isn't being big-headed or egotistic, I know I'm really successful, and I know I'm a high achiever, and I know that if we have got a target or we have a challenge that has to be solved by X date or X price, I pull it off,
but then probably,
over and over
but then
and
that
over
goes
again.
That goes back to I think you put everything else first, you make everything else a priority. And what part of my job, again, being husband, being business with you, is getting you to put yourself first.
Yeah, and that's probably what I don't do.
I think that's what you've just said.
That's
it's not your priority. If it was your priority, you would do it. Well, I think now, as we sit here, it needs to be both our priorities, and we're both trying to support each other and make the right decisions. And I think that's what we need to do moving forward. So you need to make it your own personal priority. And I say that for me as well. So let's move on from that one. If you could collaborate, this is about creativity and innovation then, if you could collaborate with anyone, past or present, who would it be?
Well, past or present, is it both or just one or the other?
Just
one or the other.
One, yeah.
If I could collaborate with any one individual that is alive on the planet today, it would be the one and only Elon Musk. Now, I know everyone has got very mixed opinions on Elon Musk. Some love him, some hate him, some don't even understand him.
I think more now because on the political side, but as a business person, if we focus on the business side of it.
Yeah, I'm taking away the political side of it, completely take away the political. When I've seen his journey and I've seen what he's done with SpaceX, I've seen what he's done with Tesla, even now what he's doing with the American Doge program,
That's politics.
That's politics, and I'm not going to go down. I'm just observing. But as an individual, I just think he is so smart, so intelligent, and so focused.
I think that is the
And
entrepreneurial
he's very,
side.
very creative.
Yeah.
And if I could have the opportunity to sit and learn from Elon, particularly around artificial intelligence, because artificial intelligence blows my mind. Absolutely blows my mind.
So he would be your number one.
He would be my absolute go-to, have dinner with, and make that dinner last for a fortnight, because I would want to understand how his mind works from a creative point of view. Because even watching the last night when the SpaceX capsule came back down to planet Earth, that wouldn't have happened without him. Yes, NASA, absolutely. But without SpaceX for me is one of the most inspiring companies.
So it's obviously back. It's aligned to your passion of the astronaut thing, and
Yeah.
maybe that's where. But I actually did read his book, and it was the second best book I've read.
So who was
obviously.
yours? Who
Well,
would you
know
be
that.
your
You know the answer.
Mr. Steve Jobs?
Steve Jobs would be mine. Yeah, obviously from the past. I think, like you say, a lot of things we wouldn't be in the situation we're in with the technology if he didn't. When I say invent it, be part of that process to invent
Part
it.
of the revolution.
So yeah, Steve Jobs would be my number one. I've got my Apple Mac in the office, the original 1984 Apple Mac, signed by Steve Jobs. So that's my. And I would love to know how he would have moved forward today with the technology. I see a lot of Apple things that frustrate me, but I'll always still be an Apple fanboy, if you know what I mean. So,
Absolutely.
okay, how do you handle creative disagreements between us? How do we handle it, or do we handle it?
Yeah, I think we do. I think we've got better at it as we've got older and more mature, and we've worked together longer. I think that fine line between you're stepping into my lane or I'm stepping into your lane.
And what's your lane?
Well, my lane is strategy and messaging. Your lane is creativity. Although I am very creative in my execution, because when I find a new client, I'm very creative in my ideas.
Yeah.
You're very creative in your execution. Where it crosses over is when you start to pick holes in the messaging, and I tell you what colours
Well, we'll
are
go
wrong.
on to that, but if you think back, going back to the very first part, when you used to go out and sell, and you used to have to obviously go
I'd
out.
come back and
There was
say,
no
I've
social media, there was
sold-
nothing.
And I'd come back and say, I've sold this project and we need to spin something
3D,
in 3D. This is back in 20 years ago.
Yeah, 1999, 2000, when I first looked at 3D animation.
But you think of the fundaments of why we started in business. I sold it, you made it.
Yeah.
And that technically still what happens.
I think then there was a more defined separation. I think we're more collaborative now, and then there is those challenges, because obviously you do still write a lot of strategy. At 10 o'clock at night, you want me to read it,
And that's when it clashes.
or go through line by line. And I think that's when we have different approaches. So
Yep.
we've got a few presentations coming up in Europe, and I work on the creative, you work on the strategy, and then when we've both got them to a position, we then collaborate. I think when we collaborate too early
Doesn't
on each
work.
other's strength,
Doesn't work.
I think that's
You
when
drive me nuts.
I think that's when I call in Caitlin, and she always agrees with me.
No, she doesn't.
Okay. How do you stay ahead in an industry that's constantly changing? How do you stay ahead? Obviously, with everything in the creative industries that we're in, how do you stay ahead?
The only way to stay ahead is to run at the same pace that the industry's changing.
But that's difficult.
It's very difficult.
And your side of then the strategy side of it, what tools and have you started using, especially over the last couple of years? I remember one particular story when we were in Miami, and I was over there for a course, and you were on the course as well. And then at night, I was about to do something in 3D, and I came across something called ChatGPT like two and a half years ago when it first came out. And I couldn't believe at that point the power of it.
Yep.
And I think obviously it's moved forward at speed. And, I watch everything change over the last few months and year, the constant change of applications, creativity-wise. What's been your kind of workflow, and how has it changed over the last year or so?
I think it's the same. I think that the junction between design and technology, I talked about earlier, analytics and video. When all the production companies were creating video content, we were focused on the analytics behind the video content.
Yeah.
We always looked at how does it work, and that's where my workflow is always about how does this work, what's the complexity, how does it function, where does the value drive from this, and how can we make this a better solution, a better product for the customer, that it can be measured with an ROI or a KPI attached to that. That's always been my goal. But when I then think of our company and how we've transitioned, when we first started in business, we were just a graphic design company.
Yeah.
And we started in 1998 before Google had even started. Well, I think it was at the point when Google was starting. We didn't even have email when we first started.
We had one computer
business.
in the corner of the office that would make a noise every now and again. It was like one email would come in for one day.
Yeah, but you think of the journey that we've been on. So we started at Web 1 when it was Google, when it was about search. That transition happened in that first 8-10 years where it went to Web 2, where it became social. And in that social world where Twitter popped up, now X, all the different platforms, I don't need to name them all. The transition of business for us, we went from being a design to a production to a technology business. We then transitioned right through to launching 29 Studios. And right now, 29 Studios isn't truly representing the depth and breadth of the quality and skills that we have that we bring to our market. When you think of the world of a Web3, we're already in Web3. The metaverse that a lot of people are terrified with, and sometimes I go too far talking about, but with the metaverse, we're already in that world. We are. People just don't experience that, don't understand it yet. But where I feel we're at in this transitional change for our career from Web 1 to Web 2 to Web 3, AI is fundamental. Blockchain is fundamental. We've been using blockchain for 5 years.
Yeah.
We've been rendering.
Renders,
We render on the blockchain and have been for 5 years. We've got AI technology ingrained into our business. We are already on that cutting edge at the forefront of AR and VR, realities. We're doing that for billion-dollar businesses. We just don't shout about it.
I think sometimes probably you look back and think, well, have we been too early at certain points, or we're always at that stage where we're trying to kind of educate. And I think obviously as entrepreneurs,
that's the phase we're in.
Entrepreneurs, you're risk takers to a point. But we obviously work with big corporates, and I think we've spent a lot of time, and rightly so, educating them slowly on how to integrate, obviously initially 3D animation, augmented reality, virtual reality, and then the sort of birth over the last couple of years of AI and how that is impacting workflow, especially for us. And I think just on that conversation of ChatGPT to all the other applications now that we use to help us generate ideas, it's always a question, will AI take our jobs? And I think that's the fear.
What I feel is AI won't take your job. If people just stay in a position where they just consume AI, then they will technically allow AI to dominate. If you learn how to control AI, then you will dominate. What we're doing is we're controlling
maybe not
AI.
Control, maybe just obviously
control the
make
tools.
it part of your workflow.
Yeah, control the tools and be the creator within AI, not be the consumer. If you're a creator within AI rather than a consumer
of AI. But also thinking
the
years ago we used to talk about quality, speed and price for our customers and that whole triangle thing. You can only get 2 out of 3. I think AI in the workflow that we work in now is almost allowing us to give that the trifecta of the 3, the quality, speed and price to our customers now. Because from a creative workflow, it's bringing ideas to life faster. It's how you execute them still can be a bit traditional. And when I say traditional, I still mean digital. But the concept of ideas is much faster. And I think that's where I really focus on in my job is we talked about how my stress points is looking ahead. I think it's still the same from an AI point of view. It's like, how do we keep ourselves relevant? I once said years ago, like my job is to try and put us out of business. And that was kind of strangely met. But I'm doing that deliberately to think about, well, how can we still stay relevant? And it used to be maybe in the next 5 years, but now it's like you're 6 months, a year, 2 years. You're trying to predict how we can totally embed that into our workflow to benefit our customers.
Yeah, but even when you think of, and we could probably talk all day about AI, if you think of even the workflow bringing AI into the business, when you think of all the things that Lynn really focuses on in AI, the workflow before, if we wanted to have translations done, you wanted to change language, you wanted to then change a voiceover, or you then send it to the client and the client then wants to change a sentence. The time that would take, you could easily be 2-3 days to get it from one through to the other. It could be 3 weeks if there's 3 sets of changes. That could all get done in the same hour.
Yeah.
And Lynn does that in the same hour.
Yeah.
And that wouldn't be possible without AI.
Well, the goal now is to build like an absolute AI chatbot of Lynn.
You better not tell her that.
Okay. How do you balance being a boss, a partner, and obviously a mother? Because obviously Caitlin works in her business also now. So
Probably the hardest part, if I'm being really honest, is the mother role. And I've learned over the years, we've been married now for 35 years. 35 years we've been married. We've nailed that. We completely know how to navigate that. We do. We know how
Still put in the effort.
We do, but
We've nailed it.
We've nailed it. But we know how to manage that. We know how to work together. We know how to have a personal life together. We know how to be in business together. Caitlin's been in the business now since she left school. She went to college, did the
Film and
television college, came into the business and has learned all the way through the ropes of the company, from being in sound and edit and video and project management, into sales, into marketing. And she's finding her own and she's doing an incredible job. But Caitlin kind of sits segue between me and you, but probably leaning a bit more towards my role and function in the business. When we have a creative conflict, that can be really challenging when Caitlin and I have a creative conflict, because I have to just treat this as business. But when I'm her mother
she
as
then
well,
asks me.
Yeah, then she'll come talk to you. But when I'm her mother, I have to take the mother out of it, and sometimes it's I find it more difficult having that conflict with Caitlin than I do with you.
Yeah. Okay.
And I've probably never realised that.
Right. How do you handle difficult conversations with colleagues or employees?
How do I handle difficult conversations? I don't actually think we have any difficult conversations.
I think we've had plenty over the years, obviously from team point of view.
Oh, yeah, right. Sorry, I've misread the question.
Well, you think about that, I just need to say, I was watching a documentary the other night about Jurgen Klopp, who you don't know who he is. He was a Liverpool manager, and he was talking, he went in to present himself as the new manager to the team. He was relatively unknown, but he was very much a collaborative type boss. And I think because I grew up with football, I'm a team type person. I love being around team, like people, team, and building a team. I don't get it always right. But he said in this documentary to the team, he says, I want to be your friend, but I'm not your best friend. Yep. And I think that was quite a good way of putting it. Like, he wants to be their friend, he wants to understand, he wants to learn, he wants to see how it can help them and support them. But he also has to make difficult decisions. Like from a football point of view, like you're playing or not playing, or we're selling that player or that player. And I always try and relate everything from the football part back into business, and so you don't get it always right, just like in football. But I thought it was quite a good way of almost summing up like how you have to build that relationship with your team, as a friend, but not a best friend.
Yeah, but then if I can bring that in, I think that you have got a better skill in communications with people in the company, with team members in the company. I have...
There's probably a lot of people who disagree with that.
Yeah,
over the years.
Yeah, probably. Having to deal when you have to let someone go. And over the years, we've hired lots of people, and we've had to fire lots of people, and we've had to lose lots of people who have chosen their own free will to leave. And that's a sore one when someone wants to leave, because you bring them into your business, you train them, you teach them, you give them exposure, you bring them into the vision and the journey that we're all on, and when they want to leave, that really hurts.
So how do you handle that? The question
I don't handle that very well.
You're more now, I think, over the years.
Now I do, but I didn't handle that very well.
Yeah.
There's a couple of people that I've had in the years that left, and I was really gutted that they wanted to leave, but they went to the other side of the world. They went to Australia. And I was really sad when Kaylee left, but because I really rated Kaylee in our business. She was so brilliant, but she wanted to go to Australia. The other the lady that worked with us was Laura Davidson, Laura Grant. And Laura came to California with us. And when she left, I probably wasn't great at letting her leave, and I really respected that she wanted to go off and do her own thing and become an entrepreneur in her own right, meet with her husband, and they got married, and they've had an amazing business, and the business is in acquisition right now. I'm so proud of her. Never told her that, but I'm so proud of what she's achieved. But I wasn't really good at letting that relationship go. And that's what I've learned.
I talked about team there and about obviously building culture. We've got a great office space in the heart of the city centre in Glasgow. We've talked about it earlier, our pirate bar. It just became a thing because, going back to my Steve Jobs story of he flew a pirate flag at the top of the Apple campus, and I always thought one day when I have my premises, I'm going to have a pirate flag in a bar. So I've created this pirate bar, and it's
Did we not even take that exact flag to
we took it to Apple,
one infinite loop Cupertino? There's a picture with one, and we've
all
got
of us,
it. All of us were on it.
So it's became like the 29ers Pirate Bar. We've had, as we talked about, we've had NASA astronauts there. We've had obviously networking, lots of events in that kind of place. So I've always been like trying to build that culture. I think obviously, before pandemic, that was happening. As you said, you had to let people go, new people joined. Pandemic changed a lot of things.
Yep.
I think obviously working from home culture,
It's been
the hybrid culture, obviously remote, hybrid, or in the office. We're now like unbelievably like 5 years further ahead since pandemic kind of started. What's your take on the whole? Obviously, we want to, as part of this journey we're on as well, is we're looking to build that team up again. We've got a lot of new work coming through. We want to bring in new people. It's a different world now we're kind of working with as far as employing people with hybrid and remote working. What's your take on that?
Well, I think it all comes down to what it is that motivates you and what drives you. And if I'll talk about myself. I very much function really well as a lone person. When I'm working on my own and I need to write something, I do it better when I'm on my own. So that's where the beauty for me is, to be able to be at home, work away.
But you can still work from your own
office.
In the office.
Yes, I know that.
You've got an office you can work from.
I get that. However, if I think I'm on a plan, I'm developing, I'm creating, to be able to have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, work from home and work all the way through those 3 days, I work from eyes open to eyes closed to get that creativity out of my head and into something, whether it's a document or a strategy. But I would be disciplined because it's my own business. If I work for someone else, I wouldn't have that level of discipline. I know I wouldn't. I would be like clocking in, clocking out. And remember, lots of friends have told me, you move the mouse, you log on to the Zoom, you pretend you're there. I've heard it over and over again, multiple times. And I'm not saying that any of our team have ever done that or taken advantage. I'm not saying that. But it's about self-discipline, and it's about the journey that you're on and what you're trying to achieve. Where we're at right now with our business.
It's believing in the vision of the company, isn't it?
And where we're at right now, our core team in the business right now, we're all on this journey to really, 10x our business and really go for growth. Yeah. To be able to do that, you have to do whatever is required, whatever is necessary. And although we do have flexibility to, take times out Mondays and Fridays, if we need to be in the office, this week we're in the office every day this week. Some weeks we're here, even on the back of our door. Some weeks we're here, some days we're here till midnight, some days we don't start till 10. We've always been super flexible. Where it's crossed the line is that flexibility is now expected. And that's the bit that I really struggle with. If it's a scenario like before the pandemic, we were all office based. But if someone really needed to be at home or work from home a couple of days, sure, do it. But now it's expected. And it's the expected part of like the hours that you work, the time that you work, the flexibility that you have. I will give anyone any amount of flexibility if it helps them in their personal life and it helps the business. But when it's weighted the wrong way, that doesn't work for a growing business.
I think we talked about being in Miami a couple of years ago, mate, on that journey of kind of mentorship as well, but scaling your business. And part of that was, understanding your personal, professional and financial goals. Yep. And we would sit down with the team and go through all of that. So I think we were trying to open up and be that, as you talked about, flexible. I think, I just think pandemic changed a concept of, as you say, the working from home concept. I think flexibility was there. But again, I'm just probably more team orientated and I like to be around. We are a creative agency. Technically, digitally, we can work from home. But I think we get so much more by working closely together.
Yeah, but also a team can function remotely. They're a remote team and get together for all hands on. And a lot of our clients that we work with are remote companies.
But I don't see that as a team. I don't think people who work remotely are a team.
Well, I disagree, right? And I'll disagree because you have grown up with football and sport where it's team face-to-face and it's conflict and it's togetherness. Yeah. I still do believe that you can run a business and have a remote team who are all on the same mission.
I think you can have
working remotely.
You can have remote employees.
Yeah.
So although I like that's the wrong way, you can have remote employees and you can be functional as a business. And as you say, there's various examples of that in companies we work with, do all work remote generally.
And it functions really well.
But all I'm talking about is the concept of the word team. That's all.
Yeah.
I just think you become a team when you work together. You're employees of a company and you work remote and you can be effective. So it's not about the effectiveness, it's about the elements I think you miss by not being together. I think we've seen that, like as you said, we work Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday in the office, Monday, Friday generally from home. And I feel now, even when we do the Monday, Friday, even just getting on a call is difficult, to communicate, to collaborate. I don't think you become a true team unless you work together. Like I showed you a video going back to my hero Steve Jobs. You saw a video about how
the Stones,
and I won't tell the whole story, but it's just about that friction. When you're in an office, you have to deal with friction. You have to deal with conversations, the good ones, the bad ones. You have to deal with people. You have to get through situations together. So it's just building. You had to have frank conversations. I think you don't become a true team if you're working remote. So it was just that's the line, I think, is if you truly want to become a great team and be like that football team, the best, then you have to be together, no matter what business you're in. You don't get the sense of
it's the
purpose.
dynamic.
You don't get the sense of purpose for the business if you're working remote. You do your task, you do it well, you contribute to the business, but you don't get the sense of the overall business. Especially we're a small business, very good at what we do, boutique, small, work with, as you say, billion-dollar businesses across the world. But you talked at the very early days with Nancy and Claire, and what they taught us was about obviously putting the customer at the heart of everything. But you can only do that collectively as a team. And I just don't see how it works. I don't see how you can become the best team if you're working remote. And me being competitive, I want to have the best team. And we're on that journey again. We're always trying to build the best team. And I think that's where, slightly changing conversations slightly, is we always talk to ourselves and think, when do you ever think we've made it? You go back to that board at the very start that said £450 a week we needed to survive, and then it runs into tens of thousands a month to survive, and it's the same problem. We learned that in the Entrepreneurial Exchange. Like one guy had a wage bill of, what was it, millions a month or something like that.
It was Willie Hockey when we were at Gleneagles at the Exchange conference, and he talked about when he had a £5,000 overdraft for payroll, and he was panicking because he didn't have enough. And then fast forward his journey, and he had a £25 million
but it was the same
overdraft
problem
for payroll. He said it was the same problem, just a different number.
Yeah.
And I couldn't comprehend that because I was nowhere near a £25 million payroll. Couldn't comprehend that.
So let's just.
But can I just add back in there?
Yeah.
I get what you're saying about team.
Yeah.
And I get what you're saying about collaboration. And there's certain parts of the day and there's certain parts of work and our projects that it only is successful and it can only be done face to face in the room together.
Yep.
And I 100% agree on that, especially when we're brainstorming, especially when we're all talking over each other and we all get really animated, and you can't do that on Zoom. But there's other parts of the business that requires concentration and focus.
Yes, but that's why you have a business. That's why you have a business that's got different offices and different collaborative spaces. Businesses used to be, when I worked back in Avery, you worked in your cubicle, you worked in your spot, you met each other at lunch. Then businesses became, let's have an open plan, because they wanted to be together. Then it was too noisy. So you go through all those transitions, but you still had space to go and do the work you needed to do. But you were then available to be part of a team when you needed to be part of.
I get that. And I mentioned Kaylee earlier. I remember Kaylee going into the Pirate Bar and popping her legs up on the sofa and sitting back working and just getting space away from the studio. Yeah. And that was way before the pandemic. But what the pandemic did was it went from being office with some flexibility to being all home with different constraints and different rules. It's trying to get that culture from that full swing over to full remote working from home with all your personal private privileges to come back to the office. Yeah. That has been really difficult.
It has been.
But when you have the right team with the right mentality, with the same vision and same passion and focus, you can build a hybrid model.
I think that's the point. I think this is when we get to this point and we go, but we're both agreeing. I think we're both agreeing is you need to have the big vision, the big purpose.
Yep. But the hybrid model in the middle.
And I think sometimes you can lose that. And I think you lose it when people start working remote. You start losing the vision and the purpose of the business.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is full office before... No, full office...
I agree, you're right.
No, don't. Full office before the pandemic, full remote during the pandemic. It's the hybrid in the middle.
Yeah.
It's having the discipline and the structure to make that work. And it works for our leadership team.
Yeah.
It does work for our leadership team.
Yeah, but I suppose
it's when you take others into this consideration who maybe don't see that they've now went fully remote and checked out.
I think it'll be a question that'll get asked for a long time, because obviously with, as I say, technology changing, there is more availability now to work remote, but it also opens up the business like us to hire remote, to hire people not even from this country.
Yeah, which we have.
You know, because of skill set. You look for a wider skill set. You know, when we first started, when we were 29, and it was a lot easier to hire back in that day, like 1998, 2000s. It was easier to hire. It was people you had to look locally because people wouldn't travel, so you had to look locally to hire. We were at the 29 age group, so you were hiring people in their 20s and 30s. Yep. You had more in common. You had more synergy with, you know, what was going on in their world. As we look now to hire people, because of the technology change, the tasks we're doing are a lot more automated. Yep. Whereas it was more manual tasks. Even in the design world back then, it was more manual. You still had software and programs, but there was a lot more manual work included in that. So with the automation now, there is an incentive to hire remote. Yep. But I think going back to the point of, if you have a leadership team, whatever size that is of your business, I believe the word team can only be effective when you're together. So you can have leadership people who work remotely. They'll all have different, but you bring them together.
Yeah, but it's that hybrid.
Well, that's what we're doing. We're agreeing. We're working hybrid right now. I don't have a problem with that. I'm talking about how we expand the business, and we're looking to expand the business, bring new people in. I'm totally open to remote workers, hybrid workers, full-time in the office. I'm just saying
it's that
there's
blend
a whole
of
different
everything.
dynamic, and I think, but the core leadership team of our business, I think, as we're doing now, work more together in the office than we did even 6 months ago.
Absolutely.
And I think we've seen the benefit of it. I think we've seen the benefit of it.
And there's even been times when we're all supposed to be having a work from home day, and I've said I'm coming into the office, and the rest have said, oh, well, I'll come in too, because we actually enjoy each other's company. That's why we do it. And why is a company called a company? It's because you're all in each other's company. That's the purpose. But where the line has crossed and it's still not solved is that full office to full remote and trying to transition back. And it's 5 years. But you just said, like,
by having people in the office, you get to know people more.
Yeah,
the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yep.
You get to know all their quirks, but you can also support them and help them more if you're around them. So I think that whole part of a vital person in your company or a functional person in your company.
Plus it becomes transactional.
Yeah, so the functional part is remote workers. For me, if you've got a team of remote workers, they're functional. They're doing a task. They're given a task to do it. And that suits them, might suit their lifestyle and everything else. Perfect, right?
The freelance gig economy, absolutely.
But that opens up the employer's opportunity to hire from wherever, right? From when we first started to hire local. So we can now hire global, and that's fine. That's remote workers. They're functional. But you used it. I'm not meaning that a people thing. I'm just meaning they're functional. It's transactional in both ways. They're transactional with the company. We're transactional with them. You then get vital people in your business. Those vital people, if they then work together, they become a team, and they're the leadership team. That becomes the leadership team.
That's what
so if you're not in that vital category within a business, and you find that you're a functional person, and I think that's very defined as people who work remotely are functional. They're functional. People who
fully
work remotely,
remote, functional.
The people who work either hybrid, but more so in the office, can become vital. So it depends on what you want your career path to go. And we want both, like from a 29 Studios point of view, we want to hire people. So we need functional and vital people. And that supports people's lifestyles if they want to be remote and functional, but they're not vital to the business. And they can't ever be vital to the business until they become part of that, and we've got team.
And even in our 29 network, in the 29ers network, we've got creative people who are absolutely brilliant at their craft. And they're very functional. We don't know them as people, but they're very functional and they're very transactional. They do an amazing job for us and we pay them well. That's the transaction.
I suppose what I'm trying to say is, over the next year, we need to build a bigger vital team. And also a bigger functional team. So maybe we'll move on from that.
Okay.
Because we both agree. That's the way to get out of any argument, is just say, I agree, you're right, I agree. What's the one thing about you that people would be surprised to learn?
Oh,
A personal
thing. I absolutely love chess, but I'm really crap at it.
That's because I don't play it then.
No, but I'm real. I've played it since I was a kid, and I would just love to be.
Who taught you how
my
to
dad.
play chess? Right.
My dad taught me how to play chess when we were
Does
a
your
kid.
mum play chess?
My mum plays chess as well, and we would play chess as a family, board games and game Monopoly and Scrabble and
See,
every game under the sun.
That doesn't surprise me because
I love chess,
Right.
and I would love to be better at it. So I need
Right.
to join a chess club.
Yeah. Is that your one thing?
Yeah,
Right.
I think that's one thing that people would be surprised at.
I hate board games.
What would be the one thing that people would be surprised about you?
I'm not surprised. I think I'm quite sharing person. I like to share everything. Like on social media, I like to.
Yeah, you do
obviously
like to share.
My number one passion as a kid was football. My mum and dad met at a Celtic game, and just grown up passionate about football. And I think that's just, I'll always be the kind of thing I go back to and wonder what if, I played at a good enough level, but things changed and got injured and things like that. So I think just football is just, I wouldn't say it's unknown. I think I tell that or show that through social. I wouldn't say it's unknown, but it's probably, it's the one thing I turn to switch off probably from business as well. So
what would be your party piece if you to give someone what your party thing that you would do?
a party piece.
That someone wouldn't know.
That's me supposed to ask the questions. I'm good at singing Mother Glasgow.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, I'm very passionate about Glasgow and about Scotland. And, although we've talked today about our customers and they're globally, I still want to remain being, based in Glasgow, based in Scotland.
You're very passionate, very patriotic.
Yeah.
And what would be
100%.
my secret that no one knows?
Your coin collection.
Oh yeah, I've got that. I've got
Your
lots of
pointless
amazing
coin collection.
It's not pointless. I've collected them since I was a kid, and I've got stamps as well. No, but my other one was we sang Rocket Man with a Rocket Man in a karaoke bar in Beijing
With
your
Kate NASA
Ham.
astronauts. Okay. What's the one lesson you hope Caitlin, our daughter, takes from building the business? What would be the one lesson you think the hope that she takes from it?
Just one? God, there's loads. Just enjoy it. Absolutely enjoy it. Because there has been moments.
I told her that yesterday.
Yeah, she was having a tough day yesterday. But there has been moments, when I think moments over a career of how long have we done this? 25 years. There's been moments that those moments last a long time where I haven't liked it, I haven't enjoyed it, and it's been difficult and it's been challenging, and I've really wished I wasn't doing it. Overall, the whole duration, love it, wouldn't change it. And those moments is what shaped me. But my advice to Caitlin would be just take a breath and enjoy the moment, because it can be taken from you.
Do you ever wish that she'd never joined the business?
No. And the reason why I'm so proud that she is in the business is that I get to see her every single day. And that's such a privilege to be able to spend your life with your husband and your daughter every single day, building something. We're building a legacy.
I think we talk a lot about, obviously Caitlin and Lynn, about making memories. And I think the fact that the four of us, Lynn came and started working with us way back in 2000.
Yeah.
Lynn's equal shareholder now in 29 Studios since 29 Studios started. But the four of us have been on this journey in a very similar way. And we are that kind of family base of a business. And I think that has, as we've talked about, its advantages and disadvantages. But I think what we can all say, like the four of us, including obviously Caitlin, is that we've created a lot of memories over the years.
Yeah.
We travel together, we do things together. And I think you always just want to look back and think we created new moments, we created new memories. And you don't realise at the time. I think that's what probably I want to appreciate more in the coming months and coming years, is appreciate what we're doing, take time out and think what we're achieving, the customers we work with, the experiences we get, and we do get to do it together. We get to do it with Caitlin, our daughter, and we've talked about that and said that to Lynn as well. Lynn's like family, as close as we'll ever be to family, because we've all came through for 25 years, the four of us. So many highs and lows.
Remember I spoke with Mary Mickle just recently, and we did some interviews, and Mary being a fifth generation in a family business, and when I first met with Mary, it was about how would she be perceived in the workplace and how did we then build a relationship. But one of the things that Mary has said to me in many occasions is, you have to think of this. Yes, you're the owner of the business, the founder of the business with your other founders, and your daughter's in the company. Where the complexity is that my daughter's also an equal shareholder. She's also part of the founding team. You know, the four of us have got, when you think of your business, it's your legacy, it's your leadership, it's your wealth,
work.
It's your life's work, it's all of that. But when those complexities of family come into a business, it can be really difficult unless you have clearly defined roles and responsibilities. But let's just finish this one last wee bit. But as the mother of Caitlin and the mother, I sometimes feel like the mother of the business. Of course, I deal with strategy and look after money and look after like making sure everything's flowing. I sometimes take that as the matriarch of the business. That's really hard to do for a team and when my daughter's in there. And sometimes I have to make harsh, horrible decisions. And I have to do that in front of my daughter. I don't have that fear in front of you, but sometimes in front of my daughter, I hate to do that. I hate to do horrible decisions.
Like we've done a recent, last year actually, Family Business United presentation. I think I always think about when you do a presentation, like generally speaking, Caitlin's here, Lynn's here. It's an added pressure, but it's also a pride of, it gives us time to talk about what we've achieved. I think in presentations, that's what tends to be the subject, our story, our origin story, what we've achieved. And I think it makes you take time out to think about what we're doing, but how much more we've still to go. And I think that was the kind of final last question or so is like, what's the sense of when do you think we've made it? And I think that's always been the question over the years when you're going back to that £450 a week board right through to now. Maybe we don't stop enough and think, well, when we say made it, it's not on an arrogance point of view, it's just like, we've done this for 25 years, we've been self-sufficient, we live a nice lifestyle, we service a lot of great customers, and I think the customers get the benefit, if I say so myself, of that we are a family business because they see the passion and commitment that we give to them, rightly so. But I think they've told us that over the years that they don't get that from other agencies.
Yeah.
Because as much as we're a family-based business, we're a really good team. And going back to that word team, and I think that's where our clients benefit. But I think I benefit because I think we're going in every day to do something with people that we absolutely love and care about. And we're trying to bring more people into that team, into that leadership group.
Yeah. But if you go back to the question is, when do you ever think you'll have made it? It depends on how you quantify made it. What is made it? Is made it having job satisfaction? Is made it being able to work with people that you really like? Is made it financial? Is made it having the ability to, work when you want, where you want, to be able to travel the world? What is made it? And if all of those things that I've just mentioned, I've done all of that.
Yeah.
And
I don't think we'll ever get to the point that we think we've made it.
But it depends on what made it is.
I know, but that's what we've talked about. We've talked about that many hours when we reflect back to think, are we doing well? Sometimes you wake up and think we're doing amazing, then other days you think we've got no idea.
Again, it's just honing it right into what is it that you quantify that made it.
I'm just asking you the question that you've asked me.
Yeah, but if you think of it, if it's money, is it time? Yeah. Is it opportunities?
So what is it for you?
For me, it's travel. I have travelled to some of the most incredible places in the world. I have, honestly, if I was not doing a media agency, I'd be running a travel agency. Okay. I just love the travel industry. But I've been able to carve space, travel, entrepreneurship, working with my family, having a great lifestyle, being able to travel, work under the trees, study. I've been able to do all of that. And I'm still enjoying it. I'm still on that journey. The one thing that probably still holds for me is that I'll be able to tick the final, yep, I've done that box, is to build a business of scale that makes money while we sleep. Not done that one yet. And I want to build a business of scale that then can stand on its own, that can work and operate without any intervention from me.
Do you think that's counterproductive to you as a person? Because
Yeah,
I think you're
absolutely.
you're so involved in the business? If you had a business that was passive almost from an income point of view?
I think it needs to have both.
Yeah.
And I've not checked that box. When we had Moviecom, and Moviecom was our first technology business, and it was a video platform that came into the market in 2007. We had over 3,000 sign-ups onto the platform. It was a business YouTube. It was really, we were going to make this 100 million, and we were going to take this to the stratosphere. Wrong partners, wrong time, wrong country, and it imploded on itself. And I had to lick my wounds on that for probably 10 years. I really struggled with that. And I know that with the advent of the technology that we have right now at our fingertips, that's an achievement that's on my game plan. We will build, not a Moviecom, that's the past. We will build a business that will allow passive income to create its scale.
I think there's a bigger chance.
Maybe that's where we'll made it.
There's a bigger chance now to do that possibly, but I think it has to be, use that word, hybrid business of something that is self-sufficient, but something we still have to work on every day, because I think that gives us the motivation. I think that's where you would feel a little bit lost in business if it was just something that was passive. I'm going to move on to the final question.
Because I just love starting businesses. I love starting projects.
Yeah.
I love the start point, and so does Caitlin.
Yeah.
We love being at the start.
You love starting something, and I'm left
You
to
love
try and
finishing
finish it. Yeah.
But look at the four of us. You and Lynn are great at creating and finishing. We are great at starting. Caitlin and I start the projects. You guys get them out.
And Lynn and I have to pick up your
But you
ideas,
get all the glory.
your ideas.
You get all the glory when the clients say,
Don't
"Oh,
get
well
all the
done."
glory.
The creative team get all the glory. We never get the client saying that was a brilliant document.
Okay, last question. If this was your last ever interview, what message would you want to leave? An upbeat question. If this was your last interview. If this was your last ever interview, what message would you want to leave?
You got me.
Mine's
Go first.
Mine would just be never give up. Just never give up. Never quit. Keep pushing forward. Take every opportunity, because you never know where it'll lead. All the things we've kind of talked about. And but here's the thing: is love what you do. I think you have to go out in the world we're in now. You surely can find a pathway to love what you do. Okay. And it won't happen overnight. And I think that's the other thing, is just, I think there's a culture of overnight success attitude. It takes time. And I think so, never quit. It takes time, but find something that you love.
And is this last interview question based on that you're going to die?
No, I just take it the way. Just never, no, not that you're going to die. Just you might not want to do another interview. So you're not going to do any more interviews. This is your last one. You always have to complicate the question.
No, I know that, because I had an answer, but I might have had to die to be able to do it.
Right, we'll
ask
just
the question.
Right.
Yeah, ask the question.
If this was your last interview you ever gave, it doesn't say anything about dying. If this was the last interview you ever gave, what message would you leave?
Right, so to make that factual, for this to be the last interview I'd ever give, it means that I'm not here to do other interviews, because I do interviews all the time, and I would never go through the rest of my life without having another interview. So the only scenario where that's a true fact, that this would be my last interview, would be my last day, okay?
Right.
So if this was my last day, the advice that I would give is that when you leave this planet and you close the chapter on this life, you come back in another one and you learn from your lessons. So the mistakes that you make in this life, you fix in your next.
Okay.